I'm Mike Donovan. I'm President and CEO of Nexus Services, Inc. And Nexus Services is actually a series of companies that help people who are disadvantaged or disaffected populations, and specifically people that are in jail or prison or immigration custody. Our goal is to reduce the number of people who are incarcerated across the board. We believe that incarceration is overused. The United States of America incarcerates more people than any other country in the world per capita, and it's by a huge margin. We double and triple incarceration rates against some of the countries we would think are not free, yet we call ourselves the land of the free. So I'm a big believer in the American ideal and actually getting back to it. I think we should incarcerate people less and encourage more fuller societal participation amongst different groups, and so that's what we do. So we have several different companies that do that. The company that seems to have caught the ire of the militia folks is Libre by Nexus, which works with immigrants in detention. And again, our focus there is to try to provide opportunities for immigrants to come out of detention, become fully involved in the community and in society, and hopefully be able to make their case on why they should stay in the United States.
So I want to kind of tell you the sorts of things that they've criticized you on, and then see what your response is to that. Is that okay?
Yeah,
so,
I'll see if I've heard them all. I've heard a couple of them over the last couple of days.
Well, so probably the primary claim is that if you're providing bail to people in the country illegally, that somehow you're endangering the communities that people walk free in. How do you respond to that comment? And that seems like the main.
Sure. Well, we don't set bail and we don't provide bail because we're not insurance agents. We secure or indemnify a bail, right? So the practical effect is we make bail affordable. We have a charitable bonding program on the criminal side that makes bail free. And then with Libre, we have a certain group of clients that pay, and then there are free services for people who can't afford it. The goal, though, is to allow people to post bond that has been set by judicial officers, and that's a really important point forward. We're not getting people out that don't haven't already had a judge or an ICE officer determine that they're eligible for release. We're just trying to help folks get out so that they can get their lives back on track, because if you're in the court system, I don't care if it's immigration or criminal, you're better able to defend yourself if you're at liberty, and that really makes sense, right? So we want more people to be at liberty so that they can better defend themselves, because we believe that the justice system works when people have a shot. I mean, when the government or the state comes after you, it's the power of the government, the state, versus little you. I mean, if anything, militia people should understand this. I've seen many instances where militia folks bemoan the power of the government coming after their folks, and in those cases we'd side with them too, because we believe that government abuse of constitutional rights is wrong no matter who you are, and we're trying to bring people out of incarceration so that they can actually participate in their own defense and hopefully, reach whatever goal they have.
So on the kind of opposite end of their own criticisms, they've also claimed that you are somehow exploitive of the people who you are
that one really
helping get out. So their claim was that you're making money, or you're profiting based on fees for GPS monitors and things like that. So in their exact words, some of the more extreme people had said things like you're making slaves out of them.
Right. So that would be defamatory, right? So those are the kind of things that are defamation. And they're also ridiculous. We provide a service, and that service costs us money to provide it. So we have to pass those costs on. Now, we could pass those costs on to one of two groups. We could pass it on to the taxpayers in the form of government grants, which I would think these militia folks would bemoan and hate, because that would be taking money out of their paycheck, even though they don't have a say in it, and then applying it to a service that, by the way, is needed, because we can't afford to just lock everybody up. Or we can pass those costs on to the end user. Now, I can't for the life of me understand why people who say violent, horrible things about immigrants can turn around and then claim to be protecting them. But I also can't really get my arms around how somehow being in jail is not being exploited, working for the government or a private company in some kind of prison job with $1 a day payment, versus coming out and being responsible for the cost of the services that you used. I think that, this actually seems to me the kind of thing a conservative should be able to get behind. And I identify as a progressive. But I think that this is something that conservatives should appreciate. The idea that a person has the opportunity to pay for services they use makes a lot of sense to me. Even as a progressive, I would think as a conservative that would speak to them. But I also think that this is a red herring. I get the sense that there's a lot of fear that drives this rally, and I hope that we can put some of that to rest today. And I think that fear sometimes is such a powerful emotion that people start to operate in the absence of fact. And I think that's what's happened here. And so you end up getting arguments that are twisted and kind of sound weird because they're not based in any reality. And that's I think, part of the problem.
And so, of course, this was very interesting kind of at the beginning of the live stream. I rushed to turn on the live stream because it seemed like maybe it was one of your people, but it was certainly a paper from you. One individual was served at with a lawsuit subpoena or something like that. If you want to, I don't know if I'm using the right language, but if you want to kind of explain what was that and what was the motivation for it?
Yesterday we filed a lawsuit against two of the organizers, Larry Lewis and Penny Rudder, and we filed that lawsuit because there were public social media statements of purported to be facts that were not true and that were defamatory. For example, there were statements that said that we import undocumented people. They used the word illegal. I don't like that word, but I don't think a person can be illegal, but whatever. They say that we import people across the border. Well, that's actually a federal crime. You can't do that. And accusing me of doing that is wrong because A, I don't do it, B, it's a lie, C, it's an accusation that is of criminal nature, and that makes it what's called defamation per se. It is a heightened level of defamation. Now, I'm a big boy and I've got thick skin, so I can take some things, but you can't call into question the hundreds of employees, their integrity, and accuse them of these kind of acts. And so there were multiple of them, and so I decided that we had to do something. Freedom of speech is incredibly important, but speech comes with responsibility. And so we wanted to make sure that we held folks accountable for defamatory speech. Now, I'm also a big believer in working things out. So, when I saw that, I think on your live stream, that Mr. Lewis said that he welcomed an opportunity to talk to me, I welcome an opportunity to talk to him. I think dialogue is what advances everyone's interest. And so I'm happy to know that I think he's coming here today and look forward to chatting with him.
Yeah, it seems like they're following at some point behind. So probably, hopefully in the course of this live stream they can come, and I'd love to see the kinds of conversation you have. But this was a very odd comment, but one of the individuals there claimed that they intend to sue you for discrimination against legal immigrants. And I don't know if this was rhetoric or if this is something that he would actually attempt to do, but I would love to hear your response to one person claimed that essentially you're being discriminatory because you're helping only people who are here undocumented.
So this is part of our problem. We really have to understand, if you're going to talk about the law, you really have to understand at least a little bit like what you're talking about. So all of our clients are legal, okay? And it's not just because I don't think you can call a person illegal, but like practically. All of our they have bonds set. They've been paroled into the community. They are legally present here, legally present. So, we help legal immigrants. Right? All of the immigrants we help are legally present here. And there's this idea, they say people come across the border illegally, but did you know, under immigration law, that you can sneak across the border, claim asylum within a year of arrival, and have that entry determined to have been legal? So there's just a misunderstanding of the law. I think that's funny, but I don't think I take that seriously. Of course, if someone wants to sue me, I had a registered agent in Verona. You can sue me. We'll go to court. I got lawyers. We'll talk it out. If he wants to sue me, go right ahead.
And so regarding the idea of a defamation lawsuit, I'm kind of anticipating in my head how they would respond to it, what their defense would probably be. And they haven't said this to me, but my guess would be that the easy defense would be that it's exaggeration, that it's sarcasm, saying something like, oh, he's importing people, right? I mean, even the President of the United States said when Mexico sends their people, but it's not like Mexico's loading up like cargo freights and sending people over them, right? So what would you say to their probable defense, that it's like sarcasm or postulation and that they're just using highly inflamed rhetoric based on fear or something like that?
They also said that I was a federal fugitive who was premiered on America's Most Wanted. So I don't know how you, and that's all. It's also in the lawsuit, right? Okay. So my point is, they've said things that are absolutely untrue. I mean, I've never been on America's Most Wanted, and as far as I know, I'm not a fugitive. That kind of thing is just ridiculous, right? So they've said things that are provably not true, and you can say, I can say, hey, that Ford Fischer guy, I think he's an idiot, and you can't say I'm not an idiot, I'm going to sue you. But if I say I've looked at records and Ford Fischer's IQ is such and such, and I know this to be true, well, then you can sue me because I'm saying something and purporting it to be true, right? So the problem is that they can go on live stream and say all the horrible things they want about me. I don't care. But when you indicate as a matter of fact that people that I'm responsible to, people that I employ, people that do amazing work every day are doing something wrong, and you state that as a fact, then you're going to be held accountable for that. We just can't permit that to happen.
And so I'll later on live stream I'll take some better shots of it, but you've got probably 8 or so like banners that
right.
look very you know, fancily printed. I saw one against Penny or Peggy.
Well, I don't think it was against Penny. I think
or
it
not
said,
against, but labeling her as a white supremacist. And I saw coming in here, I think I saw one about Larry as well.
Right.
But so I would love if you could just talk about what is the sort of purpose of the display that you have out there?
Well, you know, we didn't want to send people to, like, you know, I don't think it makes any sense to have a counter demonstration, so that wasn't really something that we were interested in. But we think it's important to speak the truth. You know, we're a big believer as a company in speaking truth to power. We may look like a big company, and we might, but the reality is that we speak truth to power every day. We fund lawsuits against governments and police officers that do horrible things, and we do that on behalf of liberals and conservatives, by the way. We protect people's civil liberties. Speaking truth to power is an important thing. If you're going to come here and rally against our company, then we've got to stand up and at least speak some truth to that. And so that's what the banners intend to do. A few of them were tongue-in-cheek and obviously meant to be humorous, but there are many of the banners that say immigrants welcome and no you know, no border wall and no ban and so on and so forth. So we have our positions, you know, you might say, on preview out there.
And so again, I'm sure that this has been, you know, on some level dramatized on their side, but there's the subject of Nikolas Cruz's brother is something that they've brought up to some extent, kind of in their Facebook postings, and then at the rally that kind of would have happened. From your perspective, what is sort of the story there, and kind of how have they misrepresented it?
Yeah, I think, again, I think it's an attack out of fear, and they're just sort of spouting things. It doesn't make any sense. Nikolas Cruz's brother is a kid named Zachary Cruz, right? And he is unfortunately known as Nikolas Cruz's brother, but he is a person. His name is Zachary. He likes to skateboard. He's really, really smart. He's really nice. He's a sweet kid. And we're lucky in this community to have him as a resident. And he's on probation for a second-degree misdemeanor trespass. So he doesn't deserve the condemnation of these folks. I've got thick skin. You can take shots at me anytime, as long as you don't defame me. You can take shots at me. I won't sue you. I'll go tit for tat. Don't pick on a kid. That's just ridiculous. And the people that do that, they're better than that.